in the squadron. They called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, hello. Wow. A lot of stuff going on. Eric Swalwell gone. The Iranians gone from the negotiation table. So are we, but that's okay. It's all part of the negotiations. Great big blockade in effect as of this morning. What does that mean? What doesn't it mean? Everything's under control. I am a little bit worried about the safety of our ships. Gosh, it would be terrible if anything happened to any of our crew members over there. Running a Navy blockade is tricky. We have done it before on a huge scale, actually. Anybody remember? This is the only Navy blockade that comes to mind. I'm sure that there were plenty of others, but this one is John F. Kennedy, the Cuban Missile Crisis. Remember, we found all kinds of crazy missiles on Cuba, Russian missiles, offensive missiles that could hit New York, certainly Miami, even Montreal, go all the way up to the Hudson Bay of Canada. And that was totally against, the Monroe Doctrine, basically everything. We couldn't have that kind of threat in our backyard. The world's a lot smaller, so we can't have Iran having a nuclear weapon either. Listen to President Kennedy announce, he goes through all the dangers, all the violations of Cuba, as he sometimes calls it. And then he lays out what we're going to do, a naval blockade. Cut 21, please. Cut 21.
We will not prematurely or unnecessarily risk the course of worldwide nuclear war, in which even the fruits of victory would be ashes in our mouth. But neither will we shrink from that risk at any time it must be faced. Acting, therefore, in the defense of our own security and of the entire Western Hemisphere, and under the authority entrusted to me by the Constitution, as endorsed by the resolution of the Congress, I have directed that the following initial steps be taken immediately. First, to halt this offensive buildup, a strict quarantine on all offensive military equipment under shipment to Cuba is being initiated. All ships of any kind bound for Cuba, from whatever nation or port, where they're found to contain cargoes of offensive weapons, be turned back. This quarantine will be extended, if needed, to other types of cargo and carriers. We are not at this time, however, denying the necessities of life, as the Soviets attempted to do in their Berlin blockade of 1948. Second, I have directed the continued and increased close surveillance of Cuba and its military buildup. The foreign ministers of the OAS, in their communique of October 6, rejected secrecy on such matters in this hemisphere. Should these offensive military preparations continue, thus increasing the threat to the hemisphere, further action will be justified. I have directed the armed forces to prepare for any eventualities.
All right.
And I trust that in the interest of both the Cuban people and the Soviet technicians at the sites, the hazards to all concerned of continuing this threat will be recognized.
Well, a blockade. Don't bring any offensive weapons in or out. And we had one, and it worked. It totally worked, and they backed down. So this is naval combat, potential naval combat that we have underway right now in the Strait of Hormuz. I want to make sure I understand and everybody understands what this actually, what the policy is now. Let's see here. U.S. Central Command announces forces will begin implementing a blockade of all maritime traffic entering and exiting Iranian ports on April 13th at 10 in the morning Eastern Time in accordance with the president's proclamation. The blockade will be enforced impartially against all vessels of all nations entering or departing Iranian ports and coastal areas, including all Iranian ports on the Arabian Gulf and Gulf of Oman. CENTCOM forces will not impede freedom of navigation for vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz to and from non-Iranian ports. Well, this is a lot on the Navy's back right now, and I think they're pretty good at it. I wonder how many ships are involved. I heard that there were 2 ships involved. It's got to be more than that. And we have airplanes, and we have all kinds of cool things that we can do to make sure that no ships go in or out of Iran. We're in charge of the Strait of Hormuz. Now, it is key that our ships survive. We can't take any damage. We cannot lose a ship. And even if we did, which I hate to even think about, but it is a possibility that the Iranians could get lucky. We have been pointing out that just before this war started, and one of the reasons why it may have started when it started is because Iran was on the verge of getting these very advanced anti-ship missiles from China. They had just signed a deal with China late February, and we started this thing basically just before they would have gotten the missiles. We hope they didn't get any missiles. It's possible to reach Iran via land. You know, you could actually. Afghanistan borders Iran. I believe Afghanistan borders China as well. So, and that we're watching them like a hawk, but this is a big deal. And let's see here. This is President Trump talking about the same situation. Cut 15, please. Cut 15.
We have highly sophisticated underwater minesweepers, which are the latest and the greatest, but we're also bringing in more traditional minesweepers. And so I understand is the UK and a couple of other countries are sending minesweepers. A lot of countries don't have minesweepers. Think of it. They had 28 mine droppers. What country has 28 mine droppers? 28 boats to drop mines. What country? They've been completely obliterated. They no longer. So we knocked out their entire Navy. They have 158 ships. They have 28 mine droppers. Every single one of them is at the bottom of the sea. Can you believe it? We did that in 4 days. Their Air Force is gone. Their if you look, anti-aircraft, all of their radars out. Anti-aircraft their defensive program is all knocked out. They don't have anything. And you know the sad part is, and I can't say this is for you, we knock out everything, including their leaders. Their military is gone. Everything's gone. Their missiles are down to a trickle by comparison.
Yes, and there are people out there saying, well, we're still in a very precarious position. We're still like on the verge of losing this whole thing. Now, we're not. We have achieved huge victories, huge, and we have eradicated the threat. And the way it's been reinforced to me that it was a threat because when people like Tim Kaine on the fake news comes out and says, there was no imminent threat. There's no imminent threat from Iran. And I'm like, no, man. He keeps saying the intelligence community says there's no imminent threat. If the intelligence community is giving you an assessment, they have been so bad for the past, 30 years at least, that we can probably bank on the opposite of whatever conclusion that they've arrived at. We can probably bet that the opposite is true. That's how crummy they are. That's how political they are. Remember when during the summer we struck Iran's nuclear and the Defense Intelligence Agency, one of the 17 intelligence services, right? All the intelligence services, they came out and said that we did not basically put a dent into Iran's nuclear. Now, why did they do that? They weren't thinking strategically. They were thinking tactically. They were thinking, okay, we're going to trip up Trump's message of the day. All right, so we didn't do it. Now we're doing it. Now you're saying there's no imminent threat. They're always falling all over themselves, trying to trip up Trump. Let the man do his business. Now, you heard we walked away from the table. You got to walk away from the table. Doesn't mean negotiations are over. It's just something you do during negotiations. You know, all right, that's it. We're out of here. Hey, how much longer could they have stayed at the table? They were there for 16 hours. By one report, they didn't even take any breaks. I kind of doubt that. You have to take a bathroom break. You can eat, I guess, while you're, but you can't just be at that table 16 hours. Let's take a 15-minute break, right? So 16 hours. Here is J.D. Vance in Pakistan, a place where I have been, actually. Pakistan. Had some of the best food of my life in Pakistan at the Marriott Hotel in Islamabad, which was hit by a terrorist about 3 months after I was there. Cut 16, please. Cut 16.
Well, good morning, everybody. And let me say a couple of notes of appreciation. First of all, to the Prime Minister of Pakistan and to Field Marshal Munir, who were both incredible hosts And whatever shortcomings in the negotiation, it wasn't because of the Pakistanis, who did an amazing job and really tried to help us and the Iranians bridge the gap and get to a deal. We have been at it now for 21 hours, and we've had a number of substantive discussions with the Iranians. That's the good news. The bad news is that we have not reached an agreement, and I think that's bad news for Iran much more than it's bad news for the United States of America. So we go back to the United States having not come to an agreement. We've made very clear what our red lines are, what things we're willing to accommodate them on, and what things we're not willing to accommodate them on. And we've made that as clear as we possibly could, and they have chosen not to accept our terms.
And the thing is, no nuclear. You can't have a nuclear weapon. You can't have a nuclear weapon, and that's what's got them all mad at us. It's very reasonable. This is what they do. Part of this is face saving. Okay, it's face saving. The Iranians don't want to look a little bit high maintenance here. They want to. I think it's all appearances. Actually, it is all. Look at us. We're cool. We're this. We're that. We're not just giving in right away. That's what the Iranians are doing. Sooner or later, they will have to. I was going to say just like the Pope, but not like the Pope. The Pope situation is a little bit different. What the hell is up with the Pope? What is up with the Pope? The Pope is a crazy person. I think he's a crazy person. The Pope is trashing Trump all over the place. Trashing Trump everywhere he goes. And trying to tap into the latent kind of Trump apprehension that a lot of people have out there. I know you have it. I know you have it. Hey, wait a second. Sam Altman, you know who Sam Altman is? He's the guy who basically invented AI. People have been trying to break into his house, like left and right. It's happened 2 days in a row. I wonder where he lives. He should live somewhere a little bit more inaccessible, like on an island or something like that. He's a multi-billionaire. The guy who did it, the FBI just raided his house. All right, so here's President Trump on the Pope. Now, what has the Pope been doing? The Pope has been saying this war is unjust. President Trump and his borders. Oh, we don't need borders anymore. You know, mind your own business, pal. And you want to talk biblical. The wars are mentioned throughout the Bible. There's a time for peace and a time for war. There's also borders and foreigners. And just because it's there doesn't mean I understand. Well, some of what the Bible does is reporting, and some of it is prescriptive. You are allowed to defend yourself. And Pope Leo has gone way too far here. Cut 20, please. Cut 20.
Sense in English, I would simply say, once again, what I said in the Urbi et Orbi message on Sunday, asking all people of goodwill to search always for peace and not violence, to reject war, especially a war which many people have said is an unjust war, which is continuing to escalate, and which is not resolving anything. In fact, we have a worldwide economic crisis, energy crisis, situation in the Middle East of great instability, which is only provoking more hatred throughout the world. So come back to the table. Let's talk. Let's look for solutions in a peaceful way. And let's remember especially the innocent, children, the elderly, the sick, so many people who have already become or will become victims of this continued warfare. To remind all that attacks on civilian infrastructure is against international law, but that it is also a sign of the hatred, the division, the destruction that the human being is capable of. And we all want to work for peace. People want peace. I would invite the citizens of all the countries involved to contact the authorities, political leaders, congressmen, to ask them, tell them to work for peace and to reject war always. Thank you very much.
All right. So some of that was reasonable and some of it was not reasonable. All right. And by the way, we're not hitting civilian infrastructure. All right. But look, this crafty guy, Pope Leo. By the way, does that sound like a guy from Chicago? No, he doesn't sound like he's from Chicago. And I do believe that he was elevated to that position because of President Trump. That's why they picked an American Pope. I don't, quite frankly, understand Vatican culture or what the hell's going on over there, but I do know that it's highly political. They don't. Some of these cardinals campaign for the job. They campaign to be the next pope. It's a lot of weird things going on there. But it's not just there. All right. The Pope has been disrespectful in writing and in conveying messages. Not only disrespectful, just way outside of his lane. We're allowed to have borders. We're supposed to have borders. The Vatican has a great big wall to keep people out, potentially, right? You can close the gate. Very, very hypocritical. I'm sorry. And the idea, there's peace talks. This is part of the process, walking away and then coming back. So wait until you hear what President Trump said about the Pope. Oh boy. Only him. And quite frankly, I like it. If the Pope stuck to the gospel and decoded that for us, that would be fantastic. But instead, he's going into politics. Some of it was okay, but a lot of it isn't. He's sticking it to Trump, and he's sticking it to us. Pope, get it together.
Greg Kelly.
Let's go, Brandon.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
How about those people getting stabbed in the face in Grand Central, and then the police come out right away and brag about how, major crimes are going down. Major crimes are not going down. They're playing a game. They're cooking the books over there. All right. It's, smoke and mirrors. Every time the government is doing a great job, just ask the government. No, don't trust them. It's another thing, actually. The government became so detestable and is so detestable with Mamdani, with Biden, the stuff that they did, right? How they treated us and our children, targeting our children, opening the borders. They became so detestable that there's been kind of like a lingering effect. I tweeted last week about bring back the draft. I think it would be a great thing for the draft. For a lot of different reasons, not the obvious ones, actually. I think it'd be good for national defense. I think it would be good for camaraderie, quite frankly. I think it'd be good for the culture. But it will also kind of dethrone this elite status that we grant people who serve in the military. They served in the military. Just shut the hell up and let them talk. If you have a political cause, the best thing you can do is find some veteran, right? Put him in charge of your little political project. And call him Major Tom or Major Joe or whatever you want to call him, right? Give him a rank. Oh, wow, Major Joe. Oh, let's hear from Major Joe now. What do you say, Major Joe? And whatever Major Joe says is pretty much unassailable by, I would say, half the population, because actually maybe even more, 60, 65, 70% won't say a damn thing because, well, after all, he served in the military, right? It neutralizes your opposition right off the bat. Both sides do this, and I can't stand it. You're a citizen, all right? You're a civilian. If you're involved in politics, you're a civilian. Should we do this Pope stuff now? Let's do the Pope stuff. Here's President Trump on the Pope. And then he wrote something even more over the top. But the Pope, I'm sorry, man, you got to mind your business. And from what I hear, the Catholic Church has a lot of issues in the personnel department to tend to. Cut 18, please. Cut 18.
And they're going to go back filled up with oil.
Why did you attack Pope Leo on Truth Social?
I don't think he's doing a very good job. He likes crime, I guess. He hit us. Think of it. He's worried about fear. What about the fear when the ministers and the priests and all of those great people that were arrested during COVID, and in many cases they're outside 10 feet apart, and they were arrested. So we don't like it. We don't like a pope that's going to say that it's okay to have a nuclear weapon. We don't want a pope that says crime is okay in our cities. I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of Pope Leo. He's a very liberal person, and he's a man that doesn't believe in stopping crime. He's a man that doesn't think that we should be toying with a country that wants a nuclear weapon so they can blow up the world. I'm not a fan of Pope Leo.
Okay. Now, some people just can't imagine that. That's he said it during the campaign in 2016. I'd never heard of it. I never even conceived of an American politician like going after the Pope like that. Well, the Pope came after him. And here he goes even more. This is on his Truth Social. And you know what that woman said? Why did you attack Pope Leo on Truth Social? Attack. You know, you could say criticize, attack. I hear that all the time. Oh, you attacked him. You're fighting him on Twitter. No, I'm expressing a viewpoint. That's not an attack. You make it sound like you weaponize opinion. Try to use it against us. Oh, you were attacked. I hear the fake news do it all the time. Every time President Trump writes something on Truth or wherever, he attacked. I think he actually just strongly expressed an opinion. And here we go from Donald Trump's Truth Social, posted on, when the hell was this? Last night. All right. What's the problem here? Pope Leo is weak on crime and terrible for foreign policy. He talks about fear of the Trump administration, but doesn't mention the fear that the Catholic Church and other Christian organizations had during COVID when they were arresting priests, ministers, and everybody else for holding church services, even when going outside and being 10 and even 20 feet apart. I like his brother Louis much better than I like him, because Louis is all MAGA. He gets it. And Leo doesn't. He does have a brother. Eddie is MAGA. Eddie is Florida. And this is a kind of, not a weird way, but a interesting way to soften the blow. You know, we're allowed. And you know what? President Trump could even love the Pope and not like him and not be a fan. That's how I feel about it. I love everybody. I really do. Including, sometimes even especially my enemies. They've given me some of the biggest gifts I've ever had. Literally, I can trace some of the biggest gifts I have ever had in my life to my enemies. How about that? All right, so let's see. I like his brother Louis much better than I like him, because Louis is all MAGA. He gets it. Leo doesn't. I don't want a pope who thinks it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I don't want a pope who thinks it's terrible that America attacked Venezuela, a country that was sending massive amounts of drugs into the United States, and even worse, emptying their prisons, including murderers, drug dealers, and killers into our country. And I don't want a pope who criticizes the president of the United States, because I'm doing exactly what I was elected in a landslide to do. Setting record low crime numbers and creating the greatest stock market in history. Leo should be thankful, because, as everyone knows, he was a shocking surprise. He wasn't on any list to be pope, and was only put there by the church because he was an American, and they thought that would be the best way to deal with President Donald J. Trump. Absolutely. If I wasn't in the White House, Leo wouldn't be in the Vatican. Unfortunately, Leo is weak on crime, weak on nuclear weapons, does not sit well with me, nor does the fact that he meets with Obama sympathizers like David Axelrod, a loser from the left. Is that true? What would he be doing with David Axelrod? Where the hell is that coming about? David Axelrod? The campaign manager for Barack Obama's meeting with the Pope. You know, for some people, a meeting with the Pope is a status thing, right? But maybe it was a political meeting. It was probably a political meeting. Leo should get his act together as Pope, using common sense, stop catering to the radical left, and focus on being a great Pope, not a politician. It's hurting him very badly, and more importantly, it's hurting the Catholic Church. President Donald J. Trump. You're damn right about that. Now, let's see what else is going on. Over the weekend, there were still leftovers. President Trump used the F word last week. He used the F word. They're still appalled by it. I saw two of the biggest political journalists in the country, Jake Tapper and the other one, Amy Parnes, who actually I'm friendly with. I like her. I met her 20 years ago, but I read her book. I told her I couldn't believe you. She called a chapter the F word, an entire, but you couldn't just call it F. She called it effery. Okay, buttery with an F. Wait, no. What's the word? Buckery. Muckery. Well, put an F in front of muckery. That was the name of the chapter. Jake Tapper 2 has 3 of his chapters have the F word in it. And Hillary Clinton is appalled, everybody. She is appalled. Now, everybody who knows Hillary knows that she has one hell of a foul mouth. And so does Bill. Cut 19, please. Cut 19.
For example, since Easter Sunday and through today, really some would call profane posts by the president. And I just wonder how that fits into staying focused. The Easter Sunday message, the president threatening to decimate a civilization, and then just, I think, overnight posting himself as Jesus. Does reaction to that fit into the message? And what is your reaction?
Absolutely. I mean, we need to hold leaders accountable for what they say as well as what they do, because words, especially from an American president, have real consequences. And when you look at the last week of unhinged rants coming from Trump's social media account, it's just disgraceful. I mean, threatening civilizational genocide, threatening Pope Leo, threatening the values.
Stop!
Now, I want to get back to this.
He didn't threaten genocide. He's talking to our enemies. You're allowed to use bad words when you're talking to your enemies. And I just read exactly what he said about Pope Leo, the threat. You see how they escalate it, right? Criticism becomes threat, becomes an attack. You threatened him. I tell you what, Hillary does sound fired up. She doesn't sound drunk. And does she think she has a shot in 28? Could this be Hillary's moment for the Democrat nomination? Would they do it? I think they're in big trouble. They don't have much in the way of talent. You know, Pete Buttigieg, crazy. What's his name? Gavin Newsom, totally nuts. Kamala, drunk. That guy Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania, no one likes him. No one. Give it up, Josh. That is not happening. Can I go back to Hillary for a little bit? Billary, as they used to call him. Keep going.
Wait. You know, you hear Trump and Vance and these people prattle on and on about Western civilization. I don't think they've ever taken a course in Western civilization.
Stop. Prattling on and on and on. Prattling. Does Vance sound like he's prattling? What I just heard sounded like prattling. Hold that moment if you don't mind, Lou. Just keep that right there. But I do want to hear from Vance. Does this sound like I could listen to Vance all day long. Compared to that woman, gosh, she sounded so harsh. Cut 16, Vance, the prattler? No, he's just good at what he does.
Well, good morning, everybody. And let me say a couple of notes of appreciation. First of all, to the Prime Minister of Pakistan and to Field Marshal Munir, who
you see what I mean? That doesn't sound like prattling on and on and on. He spoke for about 45 seconds. Hillary goes another 3 minutes. I do want to, let me see. She's really, we'll talk about unhinged. You're the one. Keep going with Hillary, if you don't mind.
I was lucky enough to take one at Wellesley College all those many years ago.
Maybe she is drunk.
Western civilization has a real meaning. It is a meaning about our values, our institutions. This country of ours is a result of the development over centuries of Western civilization. It is about how we hold leaders accountable so they don't become autocrats and dictators, and how they don't lead us into, reckless wars and really unhinged attacks on, the first American Pope. So, yes, accountability is a very broad concept. It's not just about...
Should we find that video where she's yelling and screaming in 2008 about how she's going to attack Iran? They're always wrong. He's always right. It's so hilarious, actually, and uncanny. It always works out that way. I feel like we got the world figured out. Not totally, but a large chunk of it. 800-8489-222, 800-8489-222. Does she possibly become nice in this call? Does she? Maybe a little bit? Go ahead.
Holding people accountable for the crimes that they've committed, maybe the bribes that they've taken, the kind of, unaccountable power they've exercised. It's also about holding them to a standard, and the standard should be American democracy, our institutions, the rule of law, how we conduct ourselves. And it's not just about the laws we pass, but the norms that we follow.
Our precious norms. I don't give a damn about the norms anymore. All right? You know, if you want to talk about norms that were violated and broken and shattered, talk to your husband about what happened in that office, okay? And how it screwed up a lot of young men. It's amazing where we were as a country back then, right? The establishment said, oh, that's okay. Men will do those kinds of things. Thanks a lot. That's exactly what I needed to hear back then. Pfft. All right. Oops. 800-8489-222. 800-8489-222. Be right back.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hey, do me a favor. He's back in the White House, President Trump. Hey, you know why we need the Second Amendment? Because ultimately we need to check on the government. All right, we do. We need weapons in the citizenry just in case they go crazy and out of control. We're not there yet. We haven't been there yet, but it's conceivable. Do me a favor. I want to dip into the White House when you can. Is that okay? Good. He's with a woman in a T-shirt for some reason. Let's hear what this is all about. Go ahead.
More money from their tax refunds than they ever thought possible. We had a man the other day got $5,000. Another one got $7,000. They weren't expecting anything like this, and it's because of the great big beautiful bill. And that's why you came, and I really appreciate it. And tell your husband to get better.
I will.
And if he's feeling good, you'll come up and you'll watch that fight.
All right. I appreciate it.
All right? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Any update on
DOJ? Any update on who you want to meet DOJ?
Well, I think Todd is doing a fantastic job. I will say that. He's a great lawyer. I know that because he's been with me a long time. And so far, he's doing a great job. But we have incredible people in the DOJ, getting better all the time. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so we had a little photo op. I call it a photo op. Maybe that's a little bit too flip. But he met with a woman, a DoorDash deliverer person, DoorDash delivery. Hey, by the way, I'm never getting food delivered to me again because if you ask for food to be delivered to you in New York City, it's going to come from a guy on a bike. And I don't want anybody getting hurt because some maniac on a bike is coming to bring me food that I should have been able to go out and get myself or shop or cook myself or my wife. You know what I mean? I just don't want to have that on my head. Number one, you know what? It's funny. I feel like ordering in. I don't know. I've done it before I got married. I did it like maybe twice in my whole life. Twice. Growing up, we would do it with pizza. You know, that was a thing. You know, the delivery of people understood you got a pizza delivered. But these people are getting these meals brought to them. You know, bring me a meal. Some people order in from McDonald's. And some guy, I just can't do it. It seems too, quite frankly, luxurious. Something is, too much of anything is not good, including luxury. Luxury. So who was with President Trump just now? A DoorDash person. And hey, if you make money that way, great. In other parts of the country, they're not on bikes. They're usually in cars, right? And I think it's a bit safer for everybody. But I think this was no tax on tips, and she's getting to keep more of her money, and she appreciates that. And it's back to the big, beautiful bill. And that's this thing about the big, beautiful bill. A lot of the goodies in that bill, right, haven't come home to roost yet, and they're starting to bloom, kind of like spring. People are starting to feel them. And that's going to help with the midterms, and I am done worrying about the midterms. I want everybody to get out and vote, be active. Don't be down. Don't let the fake news get you down. Oh, by the way, how's my friend Hathaway doing? Joe Hathaway running for Congress in New Jersey, everybody. If you live in, what district is that again? I gotta look it up, but there's a radical person. This would be a great gain for common sense and a great defeat for the radical left. I met Joe Hathaway a couple of times here. Now, I'm not officially endorsing anybody. I can't do that, right? However, if I lived in New Jersey, I'd definitely be voting for Joe Hathaway, and I would definitely get to the polls on Thursday. Election day is Thursday. What is it, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th? The 16th. Why do they do it? Do you think they want to keep turnout low? Thursday? It's the 11th district in Randolph Township. Let's see here. Where else can we, but they want turnout low. That's what people do. People in power keep turnout low, and then you can just, your supporters, make sure your supporters come out. And Democrats are very, very good at getting their supporters out. This is New Jersey's 11th district. It's Mikey Sherrill. She is now the governor, right? Democrat. She left the House of Representatives to be a governor, and looks like she's having a great time. I'm keeping my eye on her. I'm very suspicious about a lot of things going on there in New Jersey. Born and raised in a middle-class family in Clifton, New Jersey, Joe has always believed hard work and respect for others are the only path to achieve anything worthwhile. This principle has guided Joe from his days on the collegiate gridiron as a Yale University football player to his professional career in government and business and into public service in Randolph, where he served residents since joining the Township Council in May 2022 and serving as mayor in 2025. Joe made every day count, delivering meaningful progress for families, seniors, and local businesses. And I met him here. Look, he's on our side. He is on our side. And the person he's up against is a radical leftist lunatic who I think, learned the game of politics under Bernie Sanders. All right. So does anybody know where the 11th district is in New Jersey? I don't live in New Jersey. Every time I go there, I'm geographically confused. And even with GPS, you've got all these options and the roads suddenly change names. You're on Route 17 and suddenly it becomes I-84 and then something else happens. And there are like 17 exits, 17A, B, C, D. It's tough. I prefer the country out there. Bedminster and the rest. It's very, very nice. I actually one time went out to the house where Lindbergh's baby was kidnapped from. It's in Hopewell, New Jersey. I found it. I think it's a juvenile home. Very nice facility. I went up and they showed me around. I actually saw the room where the baby was snatched and the window and the ladder. You know what I'm talking about, right? The Lindbergh baby. Charles Lindbergh Jr. kidnapped when he was like 1. Biggest story ever, actually, up until that time. And Bruno Hauptmann did it. I do believe he did it. I also went to Bruno Hauptmann's house in the Bronx. Talk about weird. New Jersey's 11th congressional district is a suburban district in northern New Jersey. The district includes portions of Essex, Morris, Passaic counties. It is centered in Morris County. All right, so if you live in the 11th district, again, what do we got here? Essex, Morris, Passaic counties. Get out and vote for Joe Hathaway. All-around super guy. I think he has integrity. He's one of the nicest guys. You know, I meet a lot of these dudes, and they're nice, but this guy is particularly genuine and warm in spirit. And I think he's generous. You know, generous with his time, generous with his attention. Joe Hathaway, good luck. We need a common sense, not crazy person, Republican in the Congress, and it would be a major message. It would be a major message. It would kind of show, be a harbinger of potentially things to come if Joe Hathaway can pull this off. You can go to joehathawayforcongress.com, joehathawayforcongress.com. It's all there on the website. The woman who he's against is totally insane, leftist, nut job. I mean, all the woke crap you can come up with from the transgender children and the rest of it. Anything. And those pathetic lost souls, many of them have nothing else going on in their lives, and they will just, that's it. Religion becomes politics. Politics becomes religion for them. And that's not Joe Hathaway. Okay. I just want to look at those people who were slashed by a machete, and the cops did a great job. I heard this, too, and it's another reason to vote for Bruce Blakeman. He will pardon Eric Duran if he becomes the governor. Eric Duran is in prison right now, 3 to 9 years, for saving the lives of police officers and members of the community. He's the one who threw the cooler at the maniac on the scooter, going 50 miles per hour on a sidewalk. He needed to be stopped. And the cooler he was undercover, so the cooler was quite frankly, the most humane weapon available. And he threw it at him. Anyway, Bruce Blakeman says he's going to pardon that guy, commute the sentence. And a governor has that kind of clout, has that kind of power, has that kind of authority. That is a state case, not a federal case. Crime is a major issue, quality of life crime. And right now, Mamdani, he's not up to this, and neither is that police commissioner. Really hapless people. Cut 17, please. Cut 17.
Tonight, New York City's Grand Central Terminal, the scene of a bloody attack. Police say a man armed with this machete randomly slashed 3 people on 2 separate subway platforms Saturday morning. Police already at the station then confronted the man.
Was behaving erratically, repeatedly stating that he was Lucifer. The individual refused to comply with at least 20 orders to drop the knife.
When he began to walk towards the officers, still armed, one officer shot him twice, according to the NYPD. Officers attempted to resuscitate the suspect, but he was later taken to a hospital and pronounced dead.
Hold on.
New York.
And then there's a lot of concern about the shooting. Oh, everybody saw this was a decent shooting, but Mamdani is looking into it, right? He would love to hang this on the cops. I'll be right back.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Roger Stone here. Every day you wait, your money loses value, but gold and silver don't follow those same rules. American Sovereign Bullion gives you access to a nationwide wholesaler network, helping you secure aggressive pricing on real physical metals. Call 844-272-2428 now to get your free gold and silver guide to learn how to protect your wealth with physical gold and silver, delivered right to your door or with a gold IRA. Visit ASBGold.com. That's ASBGold.com for your free gold and silver guide today.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.